grow as a grower? Are you tired of being put to sleep by your educational growcasts? Are you tired of hearing about products you don't fucking want and can't afford? Hi, I'm Johnny Apple, and joining me is everyone's favorite amphibian, the Reverend Pirate Fog. Join us as we sift through the bullshit on the internet and try to get better as growers. This is your average grow.
Hey, dude.
Hey, man. What's up?
I have decided that I'm pushing forward my ultimate plan of having everyone I play D&D with on the show. So my DM is here. Hey, Dinosaur.
What's up, guys?
What's happening, dude?
Not a whole lot. Another
Thanks for
beautiful night.
joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I do want to say that you're not. It's the only reason you're not joining us is because you're my DM. But we actually have a lot in common when it comes to grow styles, and you've sent me some of the inputs you've made, and they've worked wonderfully. So we're going to nerd out a little bit about organics. So I won't subject Johnny to D&D talk.
Thank God. I'd be like lost in the sauce unless we can talk about Game of Thrones. I don't understand any of that shit.
And I've never
Is it
seen
even
that.
similar, by the way?
In
You've
some
never
regards.
seen it? Jeez.
No, I've never seen Game of Thrones. I'm not much of a television watcher.
Fair enough.
Plus, I was too poor to have HBO. So I was like, F that shit. And then, once it became piratable, I was, who needs it? This show has gone crazy and I love it. Dinosaur?
Yes.
How are you doing other than just being super excited to be on this show?
Oh, dude, I'm doing really well. I actually do kind of like this time of year. It's kind of invigorating.
Do you like it because of the holidays, or are you a Grinch like Johnny?
I'm more of a Grinch like Johnny, not because I work retail, not a huge holiday type or hyped about it for sure.
Yeah, I can see that. It's never fun working with people.
It's nice to have an excuse to be cozy and get stuff done inside,
That's very true.
I agree with that. I've been getting shit done too. Which leads me to being able to get ready to start my garden. Speaking of garden, Dinosaur, man. Usually we bring a guest on and we ask them from the beginning, like, what's your relationship with cannabis? Like, how did you get started? What's your what's your roots in the plant we all have grown to love?
Oh, dude, that's a fun one. So I first got started with cannabis when I was like 15, 16. I didn't know where to get it, so I figured my best bet was to try to grow it. So I started looking into it. I was going to build myself like a little fucking dresser cabinet with some, CFL lights or some shit. And then my dad found out that I was trying to build a little grow. And he was like, well, son, how about we do it together? So we got together and maxed out a couple credit cards and built a little shed out back with like 8,000 watt lights with switchable ballast. And we did like, I don't know, I think it was 50 to 75 plants out there. And that was my first experience growing and smoking weed, was like smoking that homegrown.
So I would say that's pretty typical, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody as a young kid goes, you know what? I want to smoke weed, so I'm going to just try and grow it.
Totally.
I mean, I was like really fucking awkward and shit. So it was easier than me trying to ask people for it. I don't know. That was my thought process. So
I love that your brain went, fuck talking to other people. It would be far easier to just turn this outdoor shed that I can grow 75 fucking plants into.
Oh, dude, it says a lot about my personality, right?
Yes, it does. One of my favorite things about you, we often talk organics, and we'll start talking about sourcing things, and you'll have already figured out a plan to make it yourself in some ridiculous experiment that I truly do love the passion behind. But not to get off topic, I'm going to try and sail this episode smoothly. after you've now grown 75 to 100 plants your first time. I'm going to keep upping the numbers so it sounds more and more ridiculous. What'd you grow? What'd you pick? What was the first one? Do you remember?
Yeah, dude. So that was back in the day. We were still ordering from like Attitude Seed Bank over in the UK. I'm not sure like you guys have been around long enough growing to have used them or not. But
I didn't use them, but they were around the forums for sure.
yeah. So it was Nirvana Seeds, AK-48, and then whatever freebies they sent. So I think some of the freebies were like Blue Widow, Skunk Number 5. Yeah, it was a lot of stuff like that. A lot of widows, a lot of like gassy shit.
Where did you order this from?
This Attitude Seed Bank, I think they're still around, but back in the day, you couldn't order it within the United States until the latest Farm Bill, right?
Was it an online order or was it like a magazine?
No, it was online order. Thankfully, I didn't have to deal with the magazine bullshit like some people did.
Right on.
But so my dad still did mail order, so it was still like get a money order, send it in an envelope. But
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if we have any younger listeners who are like, who the fuck? What is a mail order?
I know, right?
What's the magazine?
What's it? Yeah. What? Nobody knows how many magazines young boys have found in the woods. I wonder if that still happens. Anyhow, I said I was sailing smoothly. Yeah.
The only people it offends are too old to get fucking pissed off by it. So
that's true. Yeah. So was your first grow? Did it go off without a hitch? Were you successful? Were you one of those?
Surprisingly, man. Like even in like the southern heat, because it was in a shed in the summer in the south. We had a portable AC running in there to like keep the temps down, and because this was still like HID bulbs, so they produce a bunch of heat themselves.
Jesus.
Yeah, so we had vented hoods and everything, but yeah, it went off without a hitch, drying, curing, and everything. Like couldn't have turned out any better. We were super surprised.
So how did you grow? What medium were you using?
Unfortunately, my dad took that over. I helped him like pick out lights and like build the ventilation setup and everything, but he did the growing part because I didn't think I had a green thumb in me when I was younger. So it was Miracle Grow and just regular old potting soil, I'm pretty sure, man.
You have no idea how many large scale ops in that time in history used fucking Miracle Grow.
Well, I'm pretty sure like he used to grow back in the 70s. So
yeah,
dude, I've said it before. I've said it before on here. My fucking dad said that. He's like, dude, when I was this is bullshit. Why can't I just, when I was fucking growing and we were just fucking Miracle Grow down the pot and we were done. It was so easy. Why are we having all these fucking issues? It's like, because we don't want to fucking die.
Right.
Every spring, my dear Uncle Wayne comes to me for seeds, right? And he grows out on his patio, and we were having a conversation, and he was talking about, just throw some Miracle Grow, and I'm like, nah, like that hurts, man. We got talking. But what's even funnier was at one point his son was a large grower, like he had a large op going, and his dad still was pushing Miracle Grow. So it is the culture, right? That early culture.
Yeah, man, for sure. I actually started organics because like I did that with my dad, and then I moved away from him. So I stopped growing. I had a hiatus of about like 5 years, and then I started back. And originally I did organics because I was fucking broke, working restaurants at the time, for tips and shit. It was barely paying the bills, but I needed to get started real cheap.
Jesus, don't say that. Listen, don't say that. If Howling hears that organics is the cheap way, he's gonna completely flip the script. Don't say that too loud.
Well, dude, he's
running out of things to buy.
This was like back in the day. It was just all we really knew on the forums and shit was like Subcool Super Soil and stuff like that. It was Super Soil recipes. So yeah, you remember Subcool? Did you ever use that?
Oh yeah. The subcool,
Yeah.
heck yeah, that's the original soil recipe. I when I first started in high school, so the early 2000s, we were reading all the forums, but we went into deep water culture because we were trying to recreate that Star Trek bullshit, right?
Oh my
So
God.
I didn't get into soil till after failed attempts at that. But yes, I did follow Subcool's soil recipes for a few times.
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't know too many people who were, at least on the forums doing that kind of stuff. You know, so many people have been doing that style forever, but as far as like, you know, the nerds on the forums. But yeah, Subcool was the
I always
first one I
liked reading
used.
the forums.
And
That's
I
where
actually,
Maximus Coot came from, right?
and yeah.
Those same fucking forums.
A lot of legends did, man.
My first setup when I started again with organics was actually a SIP setup. But people weren't really smart about them back then. Like people have gotten really like ingenuitive, I think, especially like since the Earthbox came out, like since that style has been around, like I just think that's super creative compared to like, I got like a little closet Rubbermaid you can roll underneath your bed, and I filled it up with perlite and I put 2 5-gallon pots on top, and that was my sip. And I just fill up the perlite layer till right below it, and the perlite would wick it up into the pot, and that was my sip.
There you go.
It was messy, not perfect, but it worked.
Exactly. One of the coolest things about seeing people get like more and more people get into the hobby is that the level of like just skill and intelligence keeps growing, right? As happens when you increase participants. So some of the stuff that I thought was cool, and I still think is cool, but especially in high school, seeing on the forums that I thought was cool, is like been dwarfed by some of the shit people are doing. Like if I would have seen auto pots or some like even Earthbox pot like plants in forum days, I would have been blown away, man.
Oh, people were still like snaking ropes into pots for sips whenever I first started. You know, that was ingenious.
Well, especially autos have come so far, right? Because of the lowriders and stuff, and
that my first grows were fast buds, and I was growing like lowrider clones and stuff like that. Because Fast Buds didn't always used to be a terrible company. When they started up, they were kind of unique and boutique.
I can't say that I've ever run any Fast Buds. Luckily, I was steered away from them. But
I ran the, what was it, the strawberry lemonade or whatever the fuck it was, that really purple strain, remember? No, it was fucking disgusting.
Someone's one of their best. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I thought it was funny because a lot of people don't like
purple lemonade, and that was his favorite, one of his favorites.
Purple lemonade, whatever the hell it was. The plant was
I think it was Chuck.
Yeah, it might have been Chuck. He might have. Yeah, I thought he spoke highly of it, but my memory shit. Side effect of the medication.
I gave up memory for Lent.
Yeah, there you go. You're such a deeply religious man too. It's what I appreciate about you. So Dinosaur, we're now at current times a little bit, right? We won't bore you with all of the details of all your grow, but what is your current style? And then I guess we'll dive into how you get it done.
Yeah, so right now I'm still rocking those real large earth boxes. So I've got the 25-gallon totes doubled up for sip styles. And so I've got about 2.5, 3 gallons for the reservoir, and then the rest is all my super soil mix, which is really just whatever I can get my hands on for the cheapest. I usually go for like a base soil like Coast of Maine, Stonington or something, and then I'll fluff that up and add stuff to it.
Oh yeah. I like I've said, we share a similar philosophy, and that cheapest is not the best, but often the things that we buy.
So you don't start with like a peat mix on your own?
With some of it I do. Like for all my outdoor stuff, just from the sheer volume, I did start with like a peat peat cocoa perlite mix with compost and castings.
Okay.
But it's not nearly as rich as my indoor soil because, as you know, our favorite plant is very nutrient hungry.
Checking. So when what leads you to the like a pre-mixed soil, like a pre-fertilized soil, rather than like neutralizing your own soil to begin with? Like,
Really, it's just because that's what I've started with indoors is the soil that I started with because I took
it's your
another hiatus
SOP.
for a while. Yeah, so it's just what I've made and what I've had, and I just don't feel the need to remake more because I've just been using the same soil that I've since I first started, just re-amending it.
Gotcha. No, because I did the same thing. Like I had a bunch of Costa Maine. That's what I started with in my big bed. I just felt more comfortable with that, having like a base soil of somebody who knew what they were fucking doing, basically, rather than me like risking it for my plants. Right. That's
Well,
how I
also
started those beds.
my idea was like adding different biology. Like, yeah, it's cool to get all these local ingredients, stuff that's like close and near to you, but I still think there's got to be some benefit to adding like some of that diversity from things that are away from you, you know?
So the first soil I actually mixed myself was actually my dad's fucking 2x4 bed. That was like I got my own perlite, my own peat, but I still got like pre-store bought like 444 or some shit like that and used like a nutrient recipe. And I still think I want to say I still got like rice hulls and like charcoal and shit like that added, but it was like not all locally sourced, but it was still like I did still had store bought for like the main nutrients and shit. So I was like more comfortable at that point. That was the first
Johnny,
one I was actually comfortable with.
Johnny, if you would have said biochar, people would have said, "Oh, he's so smart." But yes,
That's the word
charcoal
I was
also.
looking for.
Man,
Yeah,
all
no,
those
no,
individual amendments get expensive when you
they
add them up
do.
one
Have
by one.
you?
They
I
do.
was doing a price comparison recently because I had that infestation of Argentine ants, and I had to basically isolate the soil and then get new soil. So I was doing a price comparison of making my own, doing all these things, and then buying the amendments. And I was tracking down like all the local places, and I did all the math on it, and it sucked. It was to make a
But
really good
but
super soil is expensive.
The initial
However,
investment is high.
oh yeah, the initial, and then you get a lot of it. Don't get me wrong. Everybody should make it. I think that's the ultimate end goal. Obviously, is to be able to make your own soil from your own amendments, and that's the dream. But
that's a lot. Like
be prepared to, yeah, you do spend a lot of money on the up, but it's worth it. I
However, let's
elected
not
with going
discourage
build the
people.
soil
You
light.
can just start with a bag of name brand soil and grow organic, though. You totally
I
can.
was just gonna, yeah, I said I went with build a soil light. It worked out better for my application. And Johnny, I think your idea of using it as a baseline, like any known soil, like there are obviously terrible soil. If you can avoid some soils, please do. But starting with a baseline that you know something will grow in gives you a peace of mind, and knowing like
100%. Like I still
that's less of
haven't
a variable.
shifted from
Yeah.
that. I still haven't
Yeah.
shifted from that. All the ingredients that I've like when when I made my own soil for the 3x3, it was still store bought, like sourced ingredients or internet sourced ingredients, just because it's like I wanted everything and I can't grow it all myself. So it's not like I'm doing it. I can't fucking, it's a lot to source everything you need on your own. So yeah, to some extent,
A-
like
Absolutely. That's why I think
you're
it's a
at the,
dream, right? It's something that
yeah.
you ultimately want to achieve, but
But
probably
now,
won't.
so to that very notion though, is I have yet to top dress with anything other than what I've had. You know what I mean? Like I'm top
Hmm.
dressing with like I got Craft Blend. That's my major fucking store bought thing, and then everything else is like my own worm castings at this point. But I
Yeah. And that's
where
awesome.
how do you
And
get
it
away
makes you
from your 444 type nutrients? You know what I mean? It's tough to get away from that. That's a lot of nutrients. If you were to do a soil test, like how the fuck do you get away from that?
Well,
I think I was going to say Dinosaur has some answers.
yeah, well, Johnny, the first step I think with a lot of that is you can just take it and, like you're doing, start turning it into castings, turning your stuff into compost. Like you can upgrade your nutrients and help spread them out, make them more available just by incorporating them into those routines. Those are the first routines that you need to start to really like build your own soil, because that's just going to be the base of it, the bulk of it. So that's the best place to start, in my opinion, is you got to start either composting, casting, bokashi, something of that sort.
So what do you recommend is the easiest way? Because I've been pitching the fucking idea of building a bunch of bokashi buckets for my
Bokashi,
sister
100%.
in like the bokashi bucket method.
Yep, because that's the easiest way to. Because the main thing with bokashi is you got to keep it anaerobic when it's actively fermenting, right? If it's not anaerobic, then it's not going to break down the heavier stuff. Because the whole thing is bokashi can eat through bones and meat and all this other stuff that you can't normally compost or worm or go through your worm bin. So it needs to stay anaerobic so it can get that high active fermentation that'll break down like nearly anything. And then what you can do is take that bokashi and slowly integrate it back into your normal compost, your normal castings. At least that's my method.
So you would feed your bokashi compost to your worms?
Yep, but slowly, because it does seem to be a little bit more acidic.
So would you mix it into your regular compost bin then? Like you throw
That's
that
what I've been
bucket
doing.
into your outdoor bin type deal?
Yep, I throw that into my outdoor compost bucket and I just put it in a rotation.
So here's the reason I was pitching it, because like they keep bringing food for the chickens and shit. Like we're giving them eggs, as much excess as we can. We're sharing eggs with them. And I was like, it's nice if you guys like could help out, like just bring your fucking table scraps, right? Like, and then I was like, I know they're bringing these plastic bags full of fucking their leftovers and shit that they were gonna throw out anyways, kind of deal. And it's like, I would fucking love to set up a bunch of bokashi buckets, because then I could you bring me the buckets. It's much easier. Bring me whatever fresh table scraps you can have, and we'll feed that to the chickens and shit too. But have that like all the bones and all the scraps you're throwing away, put right in the bokashi bucket. You know what I mean?
Oh, Johnny, here's an idea. A local company here, they started a kind of a little racket. So they sell compostable containers first and foremost, right? They have to be commercially composted. Bokashi will eat them. So what they do is they do a pickup service for your scraps that includes those compostable containers they'll sell you. So a lot of restaurants and businesses use them. And then they'll take that bokashi compost and then they sell that compost back to people. So it's like a whole loop system of collecting that shit, bokashi composting it, and then reselling the compost back out. I thought it's a pretty genius idea. I thought.
That's fucking sick. Look, people need to listen to Yag just for the knowledge people get and how they can, get rich.
Oh yeah, you'll get rich doing that. I think it's a great idea, but I think a lot of people don't understand what bokashi is. So maybe
I was just gonna ask
to break it down.
So bokashi, it's a lactic bacteria. It's very similar to lab. I mean, it is your labs. It's the same bacterial strain. It's just in a high concentration in an anaerobic environment. That's where they thrive. I forget the technical term. They can survive in mixed environments, so they don't have to specifically be anaerobic. That's why they're a good soil probiotic just for regular soil use. But for this particular use case of composting with it, it needs to be anaerobic. So that's the way you would start. is you would make your labs, and then you can make your bokashi brand from the labs, and that's simply just taking a grain and then a carbon and mixing those together. I personally use rolled oats a whole lot because it contains carbon and your grain source all together. You just have to be really careful about not getting it too wet. But then you would take your bokashi grain. You take your labs, soak your grain, let it dry out, and then you have your shelf stable bokashi brand.
So how do you prevent it from getting too wet? Like, what's the ratio?
I don't even have a good ratio, man. I just have a pump sprayer, and I can tell by the feeling of it. So I take mine, I'll spread it all over a towel or a tarp. I haven't done a huge batch, so I've only done
oats. You're spreading the rolled oats over the towel?
Yep. I'm taking them, spreading it over the towel, and I've got my pump sprayer, and I just spray over the surface of it until it feels just right. And then I'll squeeze any excess out with the towels.
You kind of wring it so every drip comes out?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so then from there, what do you do with it?
Then I'll take it and I'll spread it back out and let it air dry.
Right on the towel?
Yeah. Or no, I'll take it off the towel and I'll spread it out onto. I just have a concrete patio and I'll just spread it out onto there. I've tried doing it on the patio itself, but it tends to get a little too sticky if I don't have like something to soak the excess up while I'm spraying.
It's pretty damn smart.
So,
but then, oh, sorry.
I think you lost me. I think I lost me. So
okay, where are you lost?
The grain is on the towel. You've sprayed it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To get it you wring it back out, and then you lay it on the concrete without the towel.
Yeah.
To dry. You need the oats. So you need the brand to be dry. So you have to take it. You have to soak it with labs. You have to allow it to get labs on it, right?
Yep.
And then you have to dry it, but you can't soak it too much with. I've never used rolled oats, but I imagine they break down.
That thing is it gets sticky if you add too much liquid, and then it's never going to dry out how you need it to.
Yeah,
you'll end up with little oat balls.
Okay, I'm tracking. I got it. So
a lot of people just use like rice hull. You can use like rice hulls and crack.
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, it's brand pretty much.
So the idea is to keep it dry. Once you've sprayed it, you got to get it dry relatively quickly, or what kind of dry time do you want without it being too wet?
That I haven't really played with, man. It's just I've done it in the spring and summer, and I've just laid it out in a shady area and in my environment, which is usually about mid-70s to about 60 to 70% humidity. It just dried out fine for me. I haven't really tried how long? Normally, it just took a day or two.
Okay. So then what do you do with it once it's dry?
Once it's dry, I'll put it into storage. You just want to put it in a tightly closed bag or sealed container because, again, you want to keep it away from oxygen as best as possible because they prefer an anaerobic environment.
So like a mason jar or a vacuum sealed bag or something, or just a Rubbermaid?
Yep, anything with a sealed container will work well. And then,
that's your grain?
Yes, that's your bokashi brand.
Somebody's got to teach me how to make labs, man.
I swear to you.
I think there was an episode where someone tried to teach you to make labs.
On all that is holy, I have tried so many times, and you've done it. That you've successfully done it and fed your chickens, have you not?
No, I don't remember what happened. No, this was a long time. I haven't tried to make labs in so long.
You tried again recently. Maybe
no, I don't think
maybe
I did.
I'm mixing up a dream I had when I was happy.
You don't even have to do the right every time, man. You can just do a perpetual labs like I do. Just take a little bit of your old, add it to your new.
I want to talk about that a little bit. I think this is let's finish up. We've made the brand now. If you don't want to do all that, you can easily buy bokashi, pull the Howling Tech, I believe Alabrije even has a recipe for his bokashi, either in
Yes,
his
he does.
own. Yeah. So there are several places. We have links as well. But
Yep.
you now have the bokashi. And
So when you have the brand, the buckets are the easiest way to start. You can use a larger container, but the larger the surface area, the harder it's going to be to keep it anaerobic. So we'll just say a bucket for easiness sake. You would take your bucket. That's where you throw your scraps in. You want to make sure there's as little air gaps as possible. So most people use like a dinner plate. You can usually find like a dinner plate that's about the perfect size to fit into a bucket and close those edges just enough. And then put something like a weight, like you could use a brick or something on top of that. But you would put your scraps, spread your bokashi bran on top. Make sure to, if you're going to add a lot of scraps at once, make sure to do it in layers. So add a layer, add bokashi bran, add a layer, add bokashi bran, like a lasagna.
So how thick of a layer do you recommend before a layer of bokashi?
No more than like an inch and a half.
About an inch, and then how much bokashi? Like a good covering?
Yeah, a good covering. And
so how much
how
much bokashi grain do you make at a time for like a good? How much would you suggest for a 5-gallon bucket? How much bokashi grain would you make to fill a whole 5-gallon bucket to like have a successful run?
This last time I just bought a 50-pound bag of oats and made it myself. And 50 pounds I didn't even get. I took me maybe 20 pounds of oats to make a 5-gallon bucket full.
Okay.
And that 5-gallon bucket full it's been lasting me.
Yeah, I'd say you'd be safe to have a 5-gallon bucket per 5-gallon bucket.
And if you're making it, that's cheap, man. Like the 50 pounds of oats was like $20 for me. So I spent maybe $5 for a 5-gallon bucket of bokashi, not including the lab's ingredients.
So how thick is the cheap layer of bokashi? So you got an inch of scraps, and how much covering are you doing of bokashi then?
See, for me, you can get away with less, but you're better off with more, right? So for me, since I do have so much, I like a healthy covering. I like a 1/4 inch. I don't want to see the scraps underneath before I put the next layer in.
Perfect.
And that I have not had any trouble with stuff breaking down that way.
I like that ratio. Like I just don't want to see the shit underneath. That's a perfect ratio for me. Perfect measurement. It's easily explainable.
Yeah, and then I believe we've touched on anaerobic, right? Lack of oxygen.
We may have not, but yes, anaerobic is the lack of oxygen. So once you get to the top layer, that's where you're going to add your layer to cover it, and then your layer to weigh that down to really press down the air layer. So I prefer using a dinner, like it's easy enough for people to find, to just say, find a nice flat dinner plate that fits in there, and then a brick. There you go. You've got something to cover, and you've got a weight. You can get creative. I've seen people use like water-filled bags as a weight and a cover. I mean, you can get creative, but that's just the basic principles. You're just trying to prevent the air gap.
I think I've seen people use like a 5-gallon bucket lid, but then like take a jigsaw and cut it out. Yeah. If you're crafty, you could like cut it out perfectly to fit inside of the bucket and then put a brick on top of that.
Yep,
Use
there you go.
Box cutter knife and avoid your fucking fingers.
There you go. Safely, children.
That knife through plastic is always the safest.
Anyhow. Oh yeah, dude. It's always
nice remember cut towards yourself.
Cut towards the inside of your leg. There's no veins down there. I always forget.
This episode is sponsored by Alabrije Medicinals.
Yeah, that'll help. I always like underselling my dear friend Dinosaurr, but we've covered the basics, and I kind of want to go a little specific because the next question I have goes specifically into, we've talked about the basic labs, but you have something very special that you sent me, and I was able to brew that. You were the first person who talked. You've in depth. Why don't you go into it? It's really cool.
Yeah. Okay. So I sent you a culture of what's called super labs. Um, first heard that term over, I think, on Growcast from like Steve Reisner and some of those other guys over there. They were really talking about it on their Discord and shit, and that's where I'd picked up some of the techniques, but I just kind of made it my own. Um, so super labs is just a mix of a photosynthetic bacteria and your lab's culture. So they can both sustain themselves in like similar types of mixed environments, not quite anaerobic, not quite fully oxygenated. Um, Easiest and most simple way is you can get a bottle of EM1. EM1 already contains both your photosynthetic bacteria and the probiotic. It's a good starter culture. However, you can collect your own. I've done my own. I think I've showed you guys some of my little experience collecting photosynthetic bacteria. It's a
Yes.
process, but you can. It's also something
Yes.
that can totally be done at home.
Super
But
cool.
once you have the photosynthetic bacteria and your lab's culture, you can make your starter culture. Make your 1 gallon out of it, because that's the cool thing with the EM1 is it's concentrated, so you can use it as a good starter. And what I like to do is like make a gallon of liquid. I can post the recipe again after this podcast. Um,
Oh hell yeah,
and then
please do.
I just take that culture, and when I get about down to the bottom, I just re-add the starter liquid ingredients. Another, like, some plant matter, some sugar, and some other stuff, and you just let it rebrew, and it's kind of like a kombucha. Is how I keep my my super labs culture.
Super
So,
cool, man.
what do you use it for?
I use that shit on everything. It goes in foliar sprays. It
That
goes in,
sounds like it's a hot sauce.
yeah.
Frank's.
You know it.
It surely is, man. I don't, anything that gets water in it gets a little bit.
So
So, okay. So, like when you're watering, if you do a little top water, you need to how much of it do you put in like a gallon of water you're going to water with?
Usually about 4 ounces, because like I said, I make so much of it. I'm not so worried, so I go on the heavier side. I think as little as 2 ounces is still beneficial.
I
2
I
ounces per
have
gallon of water.
Yeah.
Okay.
so I have been using it from the original culture that you sent and I brew, and I literally put it in every top water, and I treat it like labs essentially, like how I was using labs. I treat the same. I still use labs too, but like you said, in everything down the res, top water, foliar spray, teas. It's great stuff.
Well, yeah, and I think that's one of the fun thing about labs is because it is such a wide range of cultures. My labs and your labs aren't necessarily going to be specific nor the same. So again, I know some people are like hyper focused
My
on
labs are your
keeping local.
labs. Your labs are my labs. I'm sorry. I'm so fucking
It
sorry
is.
for that.
No. It is really cool because it is funny that you mentioned that. Not only did you send me your super labs, you sent me some of your why am I blanking right now? Oh my
I'm
goodness. You sent me some of your leaf mold.
yes.
You sent me a bunch of leaf mold, and I was able to collect it for some IMO. And you actually sent me some of yours as well, which I just recently used in a top dressing, and I pulled back the top, and holy shit, are things alive? So
So
I do
what?
enjoy
How?
the different microbes from different areas. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, for
fascinating
sure.
stuff.
What was your leaf mold? At what level of like where was it in the status of composting did you send it to him?
So I was extremely fortunate that I have this nice forest of pine trees right behind my apartment that no one has touched in forever. So there's probably like a 3 or 4 foot layer of pine straw underneath these trees. So I dug up into that layer of pine straw, and just at the very bottom was just like perfectly cultured, like all perfect white, just easy to already like fully broken
Beautiful.
down. Yeah, it's just was a great area for collection.
And it survived the postal service, which
Dude,
not
I would
Yeah.
love to
not
see a
everything can
picture.
say. Yeah, I don't think I have one because I
Oh, you
collected
don't
it and
save all
turned it
your
into.
pictures of mold. So what do you do with it? What do you do with the leaf mold culture then?
That's what you would turn it. What I use that as a starter for my IMO cultures. So when I'm so if you want to start an IMO box in winter or fall or when it's not so warm outside, since I got the greenhouse, what I'll do is if you can still go and find some really nice leaf mold like that, I will take that and put it in my IMO collection box, and I will throw that in a bucket surrounded by like other leaves and debris and shit I can throw over the box, and I'll put that in the greenhouse and make that for my collection for IMO when it's not so warm outside, nor when I can, because sometimes I'll throw my IMO collection box out in the woods. Like I'll go hiking out somewhere and throw one out there. But if I'm wanting to do one at home, I'll just do that bucket method and throw it in the greenhouse or something.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
I had to do
in
it
my
in a
opinion,
tote.
what is IMO?
In your
IMO
opinion,
is
what is it, or what's the definition of it? Because in your
yeah.
opinion, we have no idea what IMO is, sir.
That's
You have
exactly
not told us.
exactly. That's what it means to me is in my opinion. Other than that, I have no idea what IMO is.
Oh, I'm so
Oh,
dumb.
IMO is indigenous microorganisms. Those are your local microbes. So it's
Indigenous
a pretty
microorganisms.
diverse term.
So it's a cornerstone input that you build other inputs from. Like you can keep taking it. So you have IMO 1, IMO 2, IMO 3, and so on, right?
That's
Yep.
fucking crazy. Like
It's all K and
I've
F, right?
seen
And
that
J.
shit all out in my yard. I just never know what to do with it. Like I've identified like beautiful looking like shit look like worm castings from like this
Well,
untouched area of my yard that just like got overgrown for years and years and years. And I'm finally in there like hogging through it, trying to make a garden. And I'm like, dude, I'm going to be able to grow in this for a couple years without having to touch a fucking thing.
like
Yeah.
I said, Johnny, I undersold Dinosaur again. He is literally like the guy I go to when I have KNF questions and such, because he's able to do this kind of stuff. Because I mentioned, I was like, yeah, I have a hard time with IMO because I live in suburbia and we don't have old growth anything because someone will come sweep it up. And he sent me that and I was able to collect in a tote. So it's nice having him on finally.
Sick.
So now you can
I
bother
gotta
him.
take some of that shit and throw it in my own fucking compost bin now too.
Dude, you need to start a collection too because it would be so good for your beds.
Oh yeah, for sure. So the other good news, the only other good thing that I do is just pure laziness. So I bring shit from outdoors and I put it in my bed indoors and shit too. So like when I've
Well,
uprooted,
that's not always good. You
well,
really mess with if you get pests.
Yeah.
I always have pests.
That that is the one downside of using the indigenous stuff is you do have to be rather vigilant, making sure you're
Yeah.
not, because you can't just as easily as you can collect good cultures, you can also collect bad ones.
So ultimately, balance is the key here.
Yeah,
Always.
100%.
So how are we when we're adding all of this shit back to our beds, how are we making sure to add the right amount? Like what is the balance of IMO and bokashi and how are we balancing this back into our soil?
Oh boy. So a lot of true KNF guys would burn me at the cross for this, but I just kind of measure with my heart. KNF itself does have very specific ratios for everything, and that's their exact reasoning for it is to help keep balance. For me and my lifestyle, I am not a measured 1 part to 100 parts kind of guy. So I measure with my heart based off my assumptions, and so far that's turned out well for me. But that's as far as I can speak to that.
If you want to talk about like a fear of adding too many microbes, you generally won't have an issue. I mean, generally you'd be hard pressed to find an issue, because they're the most catastrophic thing that happens to microbes is death, and they just die if you don't feed them.
Right.
Yeah,
They will just outcompete. I mean, on a horrible moral level, you could, I guess, feel bad about all the thousands and millions of microbes you're destroying, but in reality, they'll die and you wouldn't notice.
I kind of
absolutely.
ultimately hate to say it, but the same is true for like your worm bin.
Yeah. I mean,
Ultimately, the worst thing that happens is you didn't feed them enough, and some of them die off, and then you got to wait to regrow them again. So it's really not that hard, I guess.
Yeah, or you
Yeah.
know, if your worm gets overpopulated, it settles itself out usually.
yeah, that's the key. It self-regulates, and that's, ultimately, if there's not a food source, they won't overpopulate. But there is one caveat: you can get bad microbe and bad bacteria that will do some bad things.
Yes, for sure, and that's why I go by the common rule of thumb: if it doesn't smell like something I would be what that is super appealing to me, then I don't put it in the soil.
Yeah,
I love it.
it's
I love these like simpleton notions. Like if it smells like shit, you probably don't want to add it.
he's a simple man. Dinosaur, you hear that?
It's
What raving
genius.
reviews? I love that simple man.
I love how
shit.
you break it down for Johnny. It's perfect. Like, look, Johnny, if it smells like shit, just don't put it in there, man. And
No, but there is a lot of, with those inputs and stuff like that. There it is kind of like a choose your own adventure. You can get as nerdy as you want to, and you can really dive into it, and get super stoked on it. And same with any practice, really. But I think it's rewarding to do the base level, at least into because you can kind of expand on what you like and what you don't, and you will see the benefits. I mean, you want your soil to be alive, and the easiest way and by far the cheapest way is to hit it with microbes you can produce by yourself and not rely
Yeah,
on having to buy something.
here's just a little challenge for people. Like, if you're not already doing it, just here's would be my first steps. Make your own IMO, add your IMO to your top dressing, and start top dressing with it. Super simple, just to get you into it.
so
And to
in
see the
your
bloom
opinion,
after too.
IMO over labs.
I mean, labs are essential as well, but yeah, I would say start with the IMO. You're going to see more benefits from IMO than labs in the beginning, I believe.
No
Because
shit.
a lot of the same stuff in the IMO, but you get a lot of extra as well.
So let me ask you this, because I think I've seen Build a Soil. He's adding to his water containers for people who use tanks, reservoirs and stuff, and he's adding some sort of, I thought it was lab based something to his reservoir. Would you add IMO to a reservoir for water to like help keep that, and for bottom watering as well?
I do not. I only use it for my top watering. I just don't see the benefit. If you're already getting the culture manipulated.
It's not like labs where it would like help keep your tank clean.
No.
Okay.
It's you use a lot of brown sugar to advance past certain stages, and like, what is it, IMO 1 to 2, right?
Yep. And then and all of those, adding the brown sugar, I just wouldn't want to gunk up my system with that.
Yeah. So you it's more of a top dressing thing. And one cool thing that you can do, that I know Stoney does, is you can if you know you're going to top dress a day or two in advance, you can mix it all with the IMO and you can watch it as the mycelium grows as you're top dressing.
You can really pre-break down that top dressing. I love doing that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But into your respect, Johnny, no, labs would be the easiest thing to add if you're looking to add something to a reservoir. And labs does work by, it will break down the proteins, right? Like that's why it works as a poor man's Drano.
Perfect. Which, by the way, I really need to get on. God damn it, man.
One of these days. If you ever did the things that we talked about, I would be so shocked. I don't know if we could continue doing the podcast.
I do some of them.
I know, but it's not as funny if I acknowledge that.
I don't remember any offhand. Probably most. I couldn't acknowledge any of them. Probably.
If it makes you feel better, I don't either.
Okay, good. I got one more question before I go into the questions that I normally ask.
Got one more question before I ask you
a bunch of questions. Before I ask you all my regular questions. You do have a worm bin. So it's a series of questions, I guess. You do have a worm bin.
Yes.
What does your worm bin look like?
It's really a lazy man's worm bin, man. It is just a Rubbermaid tote outside. That's it.
You gotta, do you do any breeding? You just keep your worms out there and it's dump method, just fill it up and it's full of castings and you use that and sift your worms out and start a new bin after?
Yep. That is currently what I'm doing.
Beautiful. What do you use to sift?
I haven't got to that part yet because I haven't quite filled up the bin. This is my first time with worms.
What kind of worms did you start with? Red wigglers or earthworms?
I started with red wigglers.
Nice. Right on. All right. So I ask all the guests a bunch of questions. I'm going to have to remember them. The first one is the first seed you ever planted, and why was it an apple seed?
It wasn't an apple seed. Shit, man. Honestly, it was probably like okra, corn, squash, something like that. One of those summer vegetables with my dad in the garden.
Okra, huh?
Yeah, dude, that shit sucks to pick.
So your old man has a green thumb?
Oh yeah, dude. He's I grew up on, not to go in too big of a story, but I actually grew up on a florist. My dad had a house on the florist property that we got to live at while he worked there. So I kind of lived on a florist for like 12 years.
That's really rad.
That's street cred around here, around these parts.
My mother was a florist.
Street cred. What's your favorite pie and why is it apple pie?
It's not apple. Sorry, Johnny. It's actually a chocolate silk pie.
Ooh.
What?
Chocolate silk pie.
I'm going to need some explanation, Stony style, if you would.
Yeah. So this is coconut cream and chocolate melted and then poured into a pie crust. Just a big ass chocolate bar and a pie crust, basically.
You lost me at coconut. I'm sorry.
Amen. Coconut
it's coconut cream, boys. You can't even taste the coconut.
Then why is it there? It doesn't need to be there if I don't need to taste it and I don't like coconut. Why risk it? I ask you, Dinosaur, why risk it?
You know what? I can't answer that.
I have a question, though, because I did not know that that's what chocolate silk pie is. Thank you for the education. Do you ever get the Marie Callender's frozen ones? Because I often see those and I've wondered what they were.
I was so disappointed with Marie Callender's chicken pot pie. I don't think I've tried anything else.
Can't say I blame you on that.
I hate to ask because I'm 0 for 2 here. So why not make it 0 for 3? What's your favorite fruit and why is it apple?
It is apple, Johnny.
No way.
I'm full fucking.
You don't have to feel bad, dude. You're already on the
full
podcast.
Homer Simpson that one.
I know you did. You were so stoked.
No, my favorite is the opal apple.
To say what?
Is the opal apple. Opal. It's a yellow apple.
Opal.
Ooh. And it's local?
Isn't opal like blue?
No, it's not local. It's just Opal. OPAL.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
Sure you do.
I do know. I've seen them.
They now.
No, listen, when you got to walk down aisles, when you go apple picking around here, some of the farms around here have like aisles of the different breeds. So, yeah, I recognize it. And when he said the yellow one, it makes it, yeah.
I'm
clicking.
confused because
It's
I
all
thought
clicking.
opal was blue and I was expecting a blue apple. But
So
so what does it
disappointed.
taste like? What's the
It's a good mix. It's slightly on the tart side, but it's definitely sweet and tart. I like it because it's a softer apple. It's not so firm.
Right on.
Even before ripeness?
I don't know. I've only ever had them at the store, so they're all right.
You don't often eat unripe fruit?
No, I don't make a habit.
No, I just mean like when they get ripe, they soften up, but so it's just like a really soft at its peak ripeness, not like when it's
it is a softer apple at its peak ripeness for sure.
tracking. All right.
You know more kinds of fruit and produce than most individuals, and your favorite is an apple?
Yeah, man, I know.
You, sir, are about as American as it gets.
I resent that statement.
How dare you?
Well,
sir?
let's see here. What's your go-to sandwich?
It's got to be an Italian, man. I love those.
He's as American as it gets. Wait, now
That's
wait.
about it.
Let's explain like anything. What toppings on the Italian?
I prefer salami instead of pepperoni. I like a good prosciutto and capicola, and then a good ham, man.
Agabago.
Okay. Do you obviously like the Italian dressing? Do you do the oils?
What rabbit food too?
I like oil and vinegar. I like a nice spring mix for the bitterness, and dude, if you can get some fresh tomatoes too, and salt and pepper.
What about black olives?
Oh yeah, dude, I like black olives. I can fuck with that.
Hell yeah. Black olives are solid.
I
don't picture this being a sandwich for pickles, but are you putting pickles on it?
I put pickles on it, yeah. Well, no, I put pepperoncini actually.
Yeah,
pepperoncinis. There you go. Yep,
that is a good choice. And I'm just picky, but you don't put pickles. You can get a pickle on the side. I don't eat them, and I would give you mine. But
all right, before we make you full blown true as American as it can get, we need to know when you walk into a New York style pizza shop and you're getting a slice for your first time you've ever walked into this shop, are you going with cheese or pepperoni?
It's got to be pepperoni.
Oh man,
there we go.
Man, you almost had it.
He chose apple. He chose apple. Come on.
You were almost American, commie.
Almost American. Now he's a communist because he enjoys meat for his money. If anything, eating unnecessary meat would be more American.
That's a good point. Oh shit, that's funny.
No, that was wonderful.
Wait, do I have another one? No, I asked them all.
No, you've done it. You've achieved the achievement.
Holy cow. I remembered every one of them.
I know. I'm always impressed because often I forget.
Oh. Don't we? How do we? Plugs?
I do a sermon usually. Actually, forgot about
sermon.
That. Yeah. We haven't done one in a while, have we?
I don't think so.
Wow. Then I must do one, and I've got a perfect one because, in honor, like I said, of my wonderful DM joining us and a good friend of mine and an organic mentor a bit. All of this happened because he joined our Discord. So I say again, you guys should come join us. We have a great community and you'll meet some cool people, man. And those people probably won't be Johnny and I because we're not that cool. but you will meet significantly cooler people than Johnny and I. So don't be a dick. Mind your own business and go with Frog.
Also, on that note,
Now.
don't be scared of the general chat. You
Oh,
got to
yeah,
get past
you
the
can just
general.
ignore that
You got to
shit.
get past the general chat
chaos.
before you judge. You got to get past.
There is honest information there. You will learn a lot. You will also regret joining at times. I'm just kidding. Literally, I've met some really cool people. But Johnny, do you have anything to plug?
Do it yourself.
Amen. Always try to
I'm
do
with
it yourself first. This is exactly what Dinosaur, I think, has said on multiple occasions in this podcast, which is actually the first time a guest has actually put out a challenge. I think that's amazing. I would also fear for your safety.
Oh, God.
No, I'm just kidding. Dinosaur, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything that you would like to plug?
I do not. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
How wonderful.
The
Adios.
pleasure was ours. Thanks
Oh,
for
wait,
listening,
I have
everybody.
something to plug.
Oh, yeah.
Not really. I just wanted to sound important.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Peace.
See ya.